And we are live. Greetings, salutations, and of course, welcome to this extra special podcast live. Sandra, it's so lovely to have you here. Thank you for joining us, even though the holidays are just around the corner. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Oh, we're always so happy to have you. Are you geared up for the holidays? Do you feel ready?
I actually am more ready this year than last year because I made some deliberate choices we can talk about as part of the thing.
Yes. Fantastic. Okay, let me introduce this episode properly and Sandra properly as well. The holidays are supposed to be joyful, but for many of us creatives, they are intensely disruptive. Our routines vanish, our emotional bandwidths shrink, family invades our personal space, and suddenly our projects that felt so vibrant feel impossibly far away. So if you've ever stared at a blank page between family visits and wondered what the heck you are supposed to be doing, this is the podcast for you. Sandra Tayler is a writer, editor, and publisher with credits in over 30 different titles. She spent the last 30 years managing not just a household, but several small businesses. And she has a Patreon designed to support creativity. She consults on crowdfunding projects, and she frequently works as an event organizer. Her most recent project, and very pertinent to this conversation, is a fabulous book which I already have backed on Kickstarter, have on my Kindle right now, Structuring Life to Support Creativity. And that really is why I wanted to get you here to talk on this topic today, Sandra. How would you describe yourself as a creative productivity guru?
I don't like to use the word guru, but yes, I'm very passionate about helping people look at their lives and figure out how do you build a structure in your life that lets your creativity thrive inside it. Because I feel like when we create the space, things grow naturally rather than us having to struggle as much. And so I'm very interested in building systems and talking about how you create that structure. So
fantastic. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. So of course, we're talking about the holidays. We're talking especially, they are notorious for things getting in the way. And it doesn't just have to be Thanksgiving, Christmas. There are all sorts of holidays around the world where things get in the way. There are big holidays, Greek Easter, for example. Everything shuts down. The entire of August, everything shuts down. People go on summer holidays. It's different in every country, but what is the same is the disruption. So one of the kind of things we're thinking about when we're thinking about this kind of disruption, and chat, I would love to hear from you and future podcast listeners. Throw your biggest holiday demons in the chat, please, in the comments below.
Yeah. So you're asking me or the chat?
Everybody.
Okay, absolutely. Well, for me, one of the biggest, the thing that happens in the holidays, and I see this with, my Jewish friends in September, they have a whole pile of holidays all together. And then most of America gets impacted by Christmas, whether or not you celebrate it. And so for me, it's the mental load. It's the fact that we have a pile of organizational tasks. We have to schedule events. We have to go to events. We have to plan all the gift giving. If you are a parent and you do some kind of morning surprise thing, which was a huge piece of our Christmas celebration, I had to plan that. And then there are food planning, and there's like all of these tasks that show up in your calendar. And on top of that, there is the family politics. And I'm not necessarily talking about large politics. I'm talking about, well, last year you gave so-and-so a sweater and they made a snide comment. And so now, but you still need to feel obligated to give that person a gift. But how do you get them a gift that doesn't create a friction? It's a lot. There's a lot that just churns up.
These kinds of sort of double think episodes.
Yes.
The chat is yelling out on this topic.
Yes, absolutely.
We have cooking big meals. We have travel. We have, Dashiba says, I fall into the trap of looking forward to having time to do the thing, but then I don't ever have time to do the thing because, of course, it's family time. So this sort of the hallucination that we will somehow have time, even though historically we've never had time.
Right.
And Cottage of Connie has raised winter depression. Finland's snow depression is no joke. I'm being very careful not to make a pun there. The lack of sunlight, if not properly mitigated, can be crushing. Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
These are all things that we deal with. It doesn't sound like each one individually doesn't sound like a big deal, but they pile up as well, right?
Well, the one that was talking about, it feels like we're going to have space because, like, some people get 2 weeks off work during the winter holidays. And so I'm like, I will get my creative work done during those 2 weeks, but instead we do family and, all of that space is already claimed. And one of the things that I like to remember is that holiday is a creative project. And every creative project you have will interfere with every other creative project you have because it's drawing from the same resources inside you. And so when you recognize, okay, I am helping create a holiday, that is one of the creative things I'm doing during this period of time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So now we've sort of named the beast, as it were. Let's start sort of thinking about how we can attack this. Let's start with the biggest misconception, I think. What do you think is the big misconceptions about maintaining creativity during these disruptive periods?
I think we get caught up in feeling like, well, we're just going to squinch everything together. Like if we just tighten the allowances between things, we can fit everything in. And in fact, that is not physically possible. As anybody who's packed a suitcase knows, there is a capacity in the suitcase. And at some point, you cannot shove more things into it. You have to leave some of them out. And so when you recognize, okay, we are creating a community holiday thing together, and I'm going to participate in some of this community creation. That means other things have to be left out of my suitcase for the holidays. And so it's this priority shift. It's a short-term priority shift where you have to consciously decide, okay, what is important to me? Which parts of the holiday am I all in on helping create? Which parts of the holiday do I actively resent? And so to me, the conceptualization of holiday as a project and a short-term priority shift, if you grab those two things, that can help be guiding poles for figuring out and making decisions going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a look. How do we know when we should push through and when we need to shift in our creative process?
For me, there's this sense of being frazzled. And you need to pay attention and learn what your canaries are. For me, when email gets out of control, even if I don't feel like things are too much, if my email box starts to stack up, that tells me, even though I haven't consciously identified it's too much, it's starting to be too much. And that'll be different for everybody. Some people whose email boxes are always out of control, that's not going to be a useful signal. But you have some, and figuring out what they are. When I feel frazzled, it's time for me to defrag. And so pushing through is not going to help me solve frazzled ever.
Yeah.
I have to pause. So
yeah. No, absolutely. I think for me, it's often when I start to feel very negative about the work. That's often when I have the moment where I'm like, I get stressed about it, but also I start to feel like it's not very good. That's the moment where I have to be like, bing, bing, bing. Okay, I'm not excited about this anymore. That means I'm too stressed. That means I need to take some space. Something's got to give.
Right.
The chat says, weirdly, if I've forgotten to wash my hair, it's been too long since I've visited Earth. And that's another great example.
Yeah. And it's learning what are because stress shows physically in our bodies, and it shows up in our physical spaces. It might be the accumulation of laundry. It might be the accumulation of email. It might be the unwashed hair. It might be the knot in your back that shows up. And if you can learn to recognize, oh, these are signs of stress for me, And then you probably will first identify it when it's gotten so bad that you cannot ignore it. But then you can say, okay, so this is a sign. How can I identify the knots in my back are starting? What can I set as a flag for myself so that I can head this off before I'm curled in a ball crying in a closet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think another one for me is, I can just do this more efficiently if I ... That's
Yes.
often a good sign that I need to stop pushing through because I'm trying to cut corners in the creative
Exactly.
process.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Do you have any sort of quick tools versus systemic changes? So this is something I like to think about a lot in my own process. I have things that are like quick release mechanisms. It's a quick fix. It's not something forever, but it'll work in the moment. Or it's a tool that I can use sometimes, but it's not always the most sort of long-term sustainable. Versus these are my systemic changes. These are the things I do that I know will keep me in good condition.
Right.
Do you have any thoughts on that specifically for dealing with disruption?
For dealing with disruption, specifically in the light of the holidays, the quick tool is at the beginning when you know the holidays are coming, but you're still probably about a week out from when it really hits you. And for some of us, it hits. For me, holidays hit at Thanksgiving. And actually, this year it's been about a week before. So I'm like, I'm in it now. I'm in the trenches. But pausing and saying, okay, what does it look like? This quick analysis of, let me really look at my calendar of events. Let me look at my list of tasks. Let me decide this is not the year I'm going to send Christmas cards, because I can see I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I'm doing this and I'm doing this. I should let Christmas cards go this year. I will revisit them again next year. Or maybe I will send New Year's cards this year, and so that pause to consciously decide to reprioritize for me is the quick tool. And I do that on a daily basis. I will look at my list for the next day and say, okay, is this reasonable? Is this actually reasonable? So that's for me the quick tool. The systemic change is the go back to your priorities and really look at what's going on and what can you do and what can you not do. The reason that this year the holidays are feeling happier and more relaxed for me is that for the past 3 years, I attended Dragonsteel Nexus. We were a vendor in the exhibit hall, and that was it's a wonderful event, but it lands right between Thanksgiving and Christmas every year.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And so I love it. I love the people I get to see, but it was breaking my holidays completely because my brains were tied up with convention logistics instead of holiday logistics. And so this year, for that reason, among other reasons, we decided, no, we are not doing Dragonsteel Nexus this year, even though it's local to me. I decided, nope, it's a wonderful thing, but I am not going to put it in my life in my holiday season. And so this year I'm feeling kind of interested and excited about putting up decorations, whereas the last 3 years it was like, oh, right, I need to do a tree. And last year I got the tree up, never got ornaments on it, never got lights on it. It just sat in the corner like a dark, sad beast.
Oh, no.
It was just, I did have a tree. I succeeded at tree, failed at holiday, because the point of the tree is the lights and the memories and the ornaments, and so the whole point of the tree was absent.
Yeah.
And that's because I had this giant thing that was pulling me off kilter for the holidays. And so I took so that's the systemic change. That's the step back and say, okay, this is breaking the holiday that I want to have. And it is doing it consistently. And so I have to decide, either holidays become, I don't bother with a tree because I can't, half doing the tree it's just making me depressed, or I have to say no to this big shiny opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Cognitive Connie has said, if your family does respect you like mine does, you can set boundaries and communicate what you're up to and your goals, and you can try and give them a set time and say that won't change, essentially. So you can say, this is my time and this is our time. And that is, again, in certain circumstances, it's not possible, and in some it is, but that is a very good sort of, particularly dealing with family, a good sort of systemic thing you can start to put in place.
Yes.
That can be the same year after year, that allows you to start sort of carving out time within that sort of frame of cultural context.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. I am a big fan of the sort of the 5-minute creative burst, I have to say, as a quick tool. So, you know, go hide in the bathroom for 5 minutes. Also a big fan of hiding in the bathroom when I need to. Just go hide in the bathroom for 5 minutes, get out your phone, just do 5 minutes of like creative dumping, idea dumping, whatever it is, if you can. And that's something that I find very sustaining, and it can help me keep momentum on a project when, you know, I'm turning something over as I'm doing the washing up. I can then just take 5 minutes and go and write it all down.
Yes.
That can be very helpful as a very sort of quick release tool.
Well, and I mean, I carry around, and here it is, notebook. I have a notebook that I carry constantly, and it is my notebook of all the things. It has my to-do list, it has journal entries, and it has random, I need to write down this number and remember it for the next 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It goes in the book. But it can also be, ooh, I was out looking at lights and I had this idea. I need to quick write it down so I don't lose it. And then you can stay connected to the creative stuff.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
That actually brings me to this question, which is, we're talking about the holidays as a disruption. And of course, in many respects, it is, you have to do all sorts of things you don't normally do. You spend time with people you don't normally spend time with. You have a lot less personal time often. But sometimes the holidays can also fuel creativity. So do you have any strategies for trying to use the disruption as an inspiration, travel, gatherings, gift shopping, as to sort of turn it around and turn it into something that can be creative?
Well, and that's, I mean, one of the advices that I give when people talk about being creatively stuck or feeling drained is to get outside your box. You know, go do something you don't normally do. And the holidays are this weird mix of new and familiar, because yes, we are going outside to go see, we're going to go tour some lights because people have put up lights. And that is new and not something in regular life. However, you've done this every year for the last 15 years. And so it is both new and familiar. And so lean into and focus on the new. Like, grab that new experience. And I think of it as spark collection. You are taking moments, take a photograph, grab a phrase, catch the stray thought. You're collecting these into your pockets. And then when you go home, you can do that 5-minute creative burst and like sort your sparks that you collected. Like you went out on the beach, you beach combed. Now you're going to come home and look at the pebbles and the shells and the bits of sea glass and maybe make something out of them.
Yeah.
And by doing that, and especially I really like having a note-taking medium, whether, again, photographs can count, physical notes, notes on a device or a phone or whatever, however you want to catch it.
Yeah.
By deliberately catching it and taking it home, you teach your brain to look for more of those things.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things that I find is that there is a state of mind that I call writer brain. And it is the state of mind that goes, oh, I need to write a short story. What could that be about? And suddenly I'm presented with all of these things, because writer brain is always there. Writer brain looks at a situation and you know, there's a dude climbing down into a manhole cover, and the normal brain says they're fixing the sewer line, but writer brain says there's buried treasure down there. There's a dragon down there. That's a portal to another world. That's what writer brain says.
Absolutely.
And so for me, one of the struggles is keeping writer brain alive during extended holiday, because when writer brain moves away, I have to resurrect it, and it is a bit of a process.
Absolutely.
So I love this idea because it really does offer that chance to sort of keep the wonder alive, keep that alive.
Right. And also, I do want to make a note. When I say take a photograph, you do not have to do photography. You don't have to make it be like catch the thing you see, even if no one else looking at the photograph can see it.
Yeah, it can be documentation rather than art.
Exactly. You've taken a picture of the manhole cover because that will remind you of the man and the hole and the treasure and all of that. Whereas anybody else is just going to look and say, why did you take this picture? Because there's nothing to see here. That's fine.
Absolutely.
It's okay. It's a visual note.
Yeah, totally. The chat is also saying take photos and also send them to your friends and find joy in them, which is another lovely idea, is sort of not just documenting, but sharing your documentation with others.
One of the things that has come about when we do the Writing Excuses cruises, where we have a retreat on a cruise ship art is weird. Like,
yes,
it is so weird. And so we actually, in our Discord for the retreat, we had a channel which was just like, let's share photos of the weird things we found in the odd corners of the ship. And then there was a second channel that was like, let's write flash fiction based on the weird art that we found on the ship. And so, yeah, it's taking the weird moment and turning it into a flash fiction or a half a sentence or whatever. And that keeps your writer brain alive.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the same note, you'll be seeing people that you don't see very often. This is a great moment to get out your phone and write a 5-minute character portrait of somebody.
Absolutely.
Try to find the little creative moments. You won't always be able to sit and work on your novel for 2 hours, but you might be able to, do a little creative pick and mix of bits and pieces and flashes and scenes and something, and then you can take that later and see if you've got anything in there.
Absolutely.
Like pan for gold later.
Exactly.
just keep collecting soil now.
Exactly.
It's a sort of different way of thinking, because often we think of productivity as I am sitting down butt in seat for a long period of time and I'm coming out with a short story at the end of it, or a novel, or a piece of world building, or whatever it is.
Right. Well, and that's part of the priority shift, the conscious deciding I am going to do holidays as a creative project. So I'm going to shift my writing project into collection, grabbing resources that I will then deploy when the holidays are over.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also in the same way, sometimes the conversations we have with family, again, ideally, not always, but ideally, the conversations we have can spark something. You can ask people about their memories of the past with older relatives. You can ask kids, what are they excited about and why are they excited about it? You can get all these fascinating insights that you don't necessarily think to ask about when, Auntie Doris keeps talking about her cats. That's fine, but why not ask Auntie Doris how Christmas has changed, or how she would love to spend Thanksgiving, or what she's been reading lately. Right. Sometimes you can dig in and find something that can be a nugget, and it's a nice way to connect with people as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the next question: small, realistic ways to stay creative.
I felt we'd sort of segued there, so I just popped it up on the screen.
We kind of have. And I was thinking about when I used to go with my husband to corporate holiday parties, which are kind of the worst, especially as the partner or spouse of the person who works there, because I had to go make small talk with people I'm never probably going to see again. But my job was there to be there and to be pleasant and to support him in this web of network relationships that he is building. You can say, okay, I have to go to this corporate party. How can I make this party useful to me and my creative project? Okay, well, I have an upcoming scene that has an awkward party in it. Well, now I have notes. I can take notes on what awkward party looks like in my head, probably not on like in real, but I can be paying attention to. Or you've heard the stories about how these two coworkers fight with each other. So you can watch, how do they move? Do they do they seem completely at ease? Do they, are they trading barbs? Are they like, you can learn a lot about social, like you can be a sociologist at the Christmas party.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
Good. Yeah.
One of the things that I always love to do is ask myself, how does this look through a fantasy lens? Or how does this look through a sci-fi lens? Or how does this look through a steampunk lens? Like how could I take this corporate party and turn this into, the fantasy version? Like, oh, it's the university's Christmas party and all the mages have brought their spouses and their spouses are sat there, but there's that element of the fantastical.
And I love that, because that takes you back to, okay, why do corporations have these parties anyway? And so why would a university have this party? What do they hope to accomplish by it? And that takes you into realms of politics and funding, and how does the social understructure of your world work?
Yeah.
Because it's super fascinating, the things in the holidays that become tradition.
Yes.
And why did we choose that? And should we continue to choose that? The classic holiday roast with the ends cut off because great grandma's pan was too small, but we still cut the ends off because that's how it's done.
Yeah.
Right. And now, even though now we have a pan that's plenty big. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And these are the kinds of things that, you can get inspired by. It's amazing how you can get inspired by the tiniest things. I have a story coming out that was inspired by a lollipop. It was one of Mary Robinette Cowell's prompts for our write-ins on Sunday. And she said, a lollipop, there you go, that's your prompt. And I went, oh, okay. And I wrote the weirdest thing that has no lollipops in it, but it's absolutely inspired by lollipop. And it got picked up and it's being published. It's amazing how often that happens.
Amazing.
So yeah, these sort of tiny things, they can spark these ideas. Absolutely. And you can sit on them until you're ready to bake them. It doesn't have to be written during the holidays.
No. And as a matter of fact, the holidays is a great time for collecting piles of things that you will then deploy in, since we're talking specifically December holidays, January.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's talk about guilt.
Yes.
Because we feel a lot of guilt as people. And if it's not guilt, maybe we feel demands. So
obligation.
Many of us have an internal voice that says, I should be being productive. Maybe I should be creating. We also, many of us have an internal or external voice that says you should be spending time with your family. Yes. How do we reconcile this? How can we approach this to find a way to not feel like crap when we're doing a trade-off?
Well, and we talked about the suitcase, the trade-offs are necessary. So it's not all going to fit. One of the core things I do at the beginning of my book is talk about how some of these things that feel like they are in opposition to our creativity are actually in support of it. It is very difficult to maintain a long-term creative life without a network of supportive relationships of some kind or another. Whether that's just you and society and you have a job that pays your bills, that keeps the roof over your head, and that lets you be creative. If you are in a large network of community and family, that community and family both uses up your time and also is in, they may support you financially, they may support you emotionally, they may drag on you financially, they may drag on you emotionally. And so then you have there's big questions about how much drag and how much emotion are you willing to, what are you getting? What are you what are you providing? And that's a huge, giant boundaries conversation that is, but pulling it back to the holidays and the reasons that we allow family obligation to overrun our creative things comes down to, are those family obligations important to you? What is important to you? And if these people are important to you, well, then yes, if grandma matters in your life and you love grandma, that means you have to show up at grandma's party and you have to wear the sweater she knitted. Yeah. And you are doing it because you love grandma and because it will make grandma happy and because grandma matters in your life and your soul. And so you are willing to give this gift to grandma, even though she has scheduled this party across the only free weekend you have.
Yeah.
And when you take that and recognize, I am giving a gift to grandma by showing up in the sweater, or I am building and nurturing my family network on purpose, instead of building and nurturing my emotional imaginary world. And I'm going to do that for this span of time, consciously choosing those things, and consciously and seeing, yep, this is in conflict. I am going to choose and be okay with the choice that I have made.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to get too bleak, but we won't have grandma forever.
Exactly.
There is a timeliness sometimes to the choices that we make, which is, okay, today I make this choice. Absolutely. And the other thing is that there are choices you can make. You can say, oh, I'm going to stay for dinner, but then I'm going to turn in early and not stay up for that, second glass of wine and what have you. And then you can go to bed early and do a little bit of writing before bed. That's also an option. So that there are often trade-offs that you don't necessarily see at first that you can find, but you also have to be very aware of the math. Like what are you trading for? What choices are you making?
Well, and I mean, you have, growing up, my family did a 12 days of Christmas thing where we would literally troop all of us out of the house for 12 days prior to Christmas and go sing carols to other people, like every single night for 12 nights. And I loved it as a kid. When I had my own family, I assumed this is a tradition I loved, and therefore I'm going to keep up. I discovered that being the person who makes it all happen is a very different experience than just climbing in the car to go sing. Yeah. It did not, and then it did not work for our family. And so I had to bid this beautiful tradition farewell. And then I had to figure out, okay, so what purpose did that serve? And how can I serve that purpose in a way that works better for my family? How do I create the connections that I want? And knowing that logic lets you go to your family and say, okay, I can't actually make the dinner with grandma and wear the sweater. How else do I show grandma I love her? Do we need to send a picture of me in the sweater? Do we need to, how can I meet the emotional connective need in a way that serves my needs better?
Yeah.
And find a compromise there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And these things are so often possible, but it's a mindset. It's being deliberate about these choices. It's taking a beat and saying, oh, wait, I'm not going to get overwhelmed. I'm going to take a beat and try and analyze, how can I have my cake and eat it too? How can I create a situation where, I am getting what I need, somebody else is also getting what they need, and everybody is moderately happy with the situation.
Well, and making that shift, the request to change your tradition is a very fraught one. It can be, and it's a very, very conflict moment potentially in a season when we're not supposed to be fighting with our relatives, right? Yeah. Or our friends or our coworkers or whatever. But the thing to remember is conflict. And I say this as a very, very conflict averse person, conflict, when you go through it with somebody and come out the other side, your relationship is stronger and better.
Yeah. And
so the difficult conversation of, this tradition really isn't working for me. Can we adjust it? Can this accommodate a new need? Is a valuable one to have. If you can have it in advance of hitting the day before grandma's party, if you can have that conversation weeks earlier, so people cannot feel time pressure and they can have their emotions in a more relaxed fashion, rather than, we have to resolve this right now because the party's tomorrow.
Absolutely.
You are setting yourself up for a better conversation.
Totally. Absolutely.
However, that said, you might get to the night before and realize, no, I just can't. And then have the conversation when you have to have it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of the things I really should have said when we were talking about quick tools and systemic changes is there is a systemic thing you can do, which is planning.
Yeah.
And it's knowing, okay, I know that I'm going to be super busy, so I'm going to plan and set expectations for myself.
Right.
I will not be working on my novel. I might be doing this.
Yes.
This is the time I'm experimenting with flash fiction because I can do that in 5 minutes.
Yes.
This is the time where I'm going to be doing character portraits for my world because I can do that in 5 minutes. Or this is the time, setting expectations, even things like I am traveling and therefore will not have my big desktop. Therefore, I'm not going to try and do map work. I'm going to make sure I'm doing something else, something I can do on my phone while I'm, sitting idly waiting for a coffee, something I can do on my laptop while, I'm hanging around at the dinner table with other people.
I love
that. And a lot of that comes from preparation of yourself and your own workflow, and knowing what's going to be plausible and what's not going to be plausible for you.
Right. Absolutely.
And I think it's the same when you're thinking about these kind of family compromises, to your point. Like, if you think about it in advance, if you communicate about it in advance, you're setting expectations for everyone, and this kind of thing will go down a lot better.
Exactly. Yes.
Let's talk about this. Chat has already brought up that, the winter blues and indeed winter depression is a really big problem. And also, the holidays do not have happy connotations for everyone, or sometimes they have mixed connotations.
Yes.
So when mental health also becomes an issue, how can we take care of ourselves as creatives and as people?
Well, if you know it's going to be an issue, there's a set of steps you can take. If you get into the middle of it and discover that it's an issue, there's a different set of steps you can deploy. Like, that's emergency crisis measures. One of the things, going back to, holidays tend to have piles of traditions around them.
Yeah.
And taking a look at which ones bring you joy and which ones don't. And if none of them do, that's a thing that you need to know. But I think very much about some of my Jewish friends and the people I see online talking about the onslaught of Christmas, which is a thing they may celebrate as Americans, but not in the
culturally, but not religiously, for example.
The solutions are varied. It's very varied. But talking about the omnipresent living inside someone else's holiday and the effect that can have on the mental health of the person who feels kind of just inundated. And if you are a person like people who have gone through a death or a grief or something that is permanently associated with the holiday, they can also feel barraged and assaulted and have to figure out, how do I defend myself from it? And one of the things that I strongly recommend is, if there's a pile of things that you want to shove and make you depressed, and so you need to exclude them from your life as much as you possibly can. So you're not going to decorate your house for holidays. What are you going to do that does bring you joy instead? If Mother's Day is a day where you know that you're just going to be sad for a pile of reasons, having to do with your mother or your children or whatever, proactively say, okay, I'm going to plan something else for Mother's Day, so that on that day I have a plan in place that I'm going to occupy my brain and time so I cannot do the spiral that I would otherwise do.
Yeah.
And so that's where, if you know it's going to be a problem, that's the planning ahead and saying, okay, what joy am I going to give myself?
Yeah. I think another nice thing about that is it gives you a little mantra. So when you come into contract with it, you can be like, okay, I'm happy for them, but I'm doing this. Exactly. Which is, it means you don't have to be negative about it. You can just say, okay, they're enjoying that over there. I can do my own thing. Right. And I think that can be very helpful to, again, when the spiraling starts, you can say, yes, but mantra, I have my thing. It's something else. It calms you.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, an example of this, I had a child who dropped out of high school. It was absolutely 100% the right decision. He went on and did a GED and has continued onward in his life. The high school diploma did not stop forward progress. But when we got to the week of graduation, and my son's friends who he had grown up with, their parents are on Facebook posting pictures in cap and gown. And I realized that I had a pile of grief around not the graduation itself, but about the hard path we'd walked, and we ended up with hard decisions. And so graduation was this symbol of this moment where everybody gets to say, yay, look at this child, aren't we so happy? And I didn't get to have that moment at that time. I got it later, but I didn't know at that time I was going to get it later. I just was in the dark place. And so I have this choice. I'm looking at these Facebook photos, and I know that Facebook is going to keep throwing them in front of me every time somebody comments, a mutual friend comments. And so I was like, I am going to type my yay, congratulations, and then I am going to hide that sucker so that I don't see it again. And I'm going to, and some of them I won't even necessarily, if I've already said my yay in one place, I don't need to say it on their fourth post. I can just hide the fourth one because I was defending myself while recognizing they get to do that. I should not vomit my sadness on someone else's joy moment.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to take my sadness and handle it in a way that doesn't ruin somebody else's holiday, which is very important to recognize. Is when we are having grief because of holiday, that it's important to let other people have joy because of holiday and find ways to protect both of those experiences.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
Oh, yeah. That's good. He's great now. Like he's actually going to move out into his own apartment next week. So
nice. Congratulations.
Yeah, he's flying. We're good. Which is, another thing to keep in mind when you are in a dark place, which is really hard, is that it doesn't, like, this is not your end point.
Yeah.
This is the dark night of the soul, and all stories get something after that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And every life story and every person has ups and downs and strange moments, and so some lives go in a slightly more straight line.
Absolutely.
Mine did not, for example.
Yeah,
and that's okay.
Right. Bringing it back to what are things that we can do when you discover that you're in. Like it's not that you knew the holidays were going to be terrible. You just suddenly discover that they are. Yeah. Well, how do you recalibrate that? And recognizing it is obviously step one.
Yeah.
And then saying, okay, some of those larger scale deploy it. Okay, what can I do right now? What brings me joy?
Yeah.
And if you are very badly depressed, the answer may be nothing. In which case you need to say, okay, what usually brings me joy? What do I remember used to bring me joy? And then see, I used to enjoy painting miniatures, and I haven't done it for a long time.
Yeah.
I am depressed right now, so the idea of painting miniatures doesn't bring me any joy, but I'm going to try it anyway. I'm going to paint miniatures and see if the physical process of doing the painting reconnects me to the joy I used to have.
Yeah.
And it's a doing thing, making your physical space better in any way, creating an activity and making something. What in your physical space is bugging you right now? Can you spend 5 minutes and make it better?
Yeah.
Can you take a shower? There's a mental health, what to do when you're feeling shitty, I think is what it's called. And you literally just, have you eaten? Have you taken a shower? Have you, drink some water, go look at the sunlight. And working through a list like that can help you pull yourself out of a moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if it's something that that you experience, having a toolkit that works for you or that has worked for you in the past can be really valuable. So I was at World Fantasy Con, and I was on a neurodivergence panel. And one of the things about neurodivergent people is we suffer from depression a lot. So like that it is more common amongst neurodivergent people.
Absolutely.
And this was specifically a question somebody asked me, and my answer is always try and have a list of your toolkit. Try and put it somewhere really obvious. Like I have Post-its all along the bottom of my computer monitor, and one of them is my toolkit, which is, make some tea, take a walk, take a shower, put on all of the lights. For me, that's very important. And different for different people. For some people, they want to be in a dark, cozy place. I need all of the light that has ever existed when I'm feeling down. And I think having something like that, have it in the notes app on your phone, have it somewhere so you can literally look at it, because when you're feeling really crappy, you will not remember. Something that has come from the chat is take the Facebook app off your phone. And again, if there are other social media apps like that are bothering you, you see the notifications and they just make your soul sigh a little bit, just remove the app. You can always download it later, again, if you want it back.
Yeah, well, and I talked at the beginning about mental load of the holidays being a huge factor. Keeping up with social media, that constant new. I have to process this. I have to process these tiny bites of things over and over. Holidays is a great time to take a break from all of that.
Absolutely,
turn off that constant stream of I need to keep in touch with all of this, and instead focus on here and now, the people you are with now, or and if you're not with everybody you want to be with now, how do you deliberately and consciously connect with those people rather than just reading their social media? Like you're keeping tabs on Uncle Nicky by reading his Facebook posts. But during the holidays, we're going to turn off Facebook and we're going to call Uncle Nicky and have an hour-long conversation. And creating and using this as an excuse to turn all that off and see how it feels.
Yeah, absolutely. And just take some time to be in the moment. It can be very, very useful. We have a great audience question here, which is, how do I cook a big meal and get my writing done? I'll also be traveling around Christmas. What do I do? Thank you, Kitoy Boy, for this question.
Absolutely.
So what are your thoughts on this one, Sandra?
Okay, cooking a big meal, recognizing that is a giant project. And if the amount of logistics around getting a turkey done at the same time as stuffing and potatoes, and rolls. You have to cook rolls in the same oven you have to cook the turkey in. If you have not been the person in charge of that level of logistics and making it all come to fruition so that everything is hot at the same time, that is a giant challenging project. And it takes actually a couple of days of planning or weeks. Like you bought the turkey a week ago, right? And it's thawing now, so that you can cook it next Thursday. So acknowledging the size of the task helps, because you can then be kinder to yourself around the fact that maybe you're not going to get as much writing done. The other thing is creating a defined time and space where you're allowed to ignore the meal that you're cooking, the planning that you're doing for the holidays. I am going to say, the thing I did, and I did a month ago, and I'm really glad I did, is I created what I'm calling story time. And every Tuesday for 2 hours, I do a stream through my Patreon where I read aloud, because I love reading aloud stories, and then I get to squee about what I read and say, this is so amazing, I love this book. And then we co-write for 45 minutes. And then second hour, I read some poetry and squee about the poetry, and then we write for 45 minutes. And by setting it up in a way that I'm obligated to other people to show up, that means I'm going to keep this time across the holidays, because I don't want to disappoint people. I am leveraging my fear of disappointing people to get me to show up and do the writing. But what it means
accountability.
What it means is that when I'm planning Thanksgiving, I'm going to pause my planning of Thanksgiving on Tuesday morning for 2 hours so that I can do it. And I know 2 hours is a long stretch, and a lot of people don't have 2 hours. But you might have 5 minutes. You might have, my walk is a required thing during my day, and during my walk, I dictate on my phone. And so, and then some of it might be while I'm sitting here stirring the stuffing, I am going to listen to a writing podcast, or I'm going to listen to a book that I'm trying to analyze how this person does dialogue. So I'm keeping the writer spark alive in my brain while I am doing the physical, because a lot of the cooking tasks are hands busy, brain free.
Yes.
Not all of them. And there's a lot of logistics, but yeah. Same. I loved, Janet kind of covered traveling. You can't do the map building. So you plan your writing into what you're going to take with you. I tend to, I switched to notebook writing. One of the projects I'm working on right now, I've deliberately made primarily a notebook with tabs and things. And it's being very, very physical and handwritten on purpose, because it puts my brain in a different space. But it also means this can get thrown into a suitcase where my desktop rig cannot. And so I am excused from layout tasks, and I can focus on this idea generation task. And so, and also depending on what type of travel you're doing, you may have windows of wait. And it's really easy to go into the waiting place and to spend that wait time scrolling.
Yeah.
Can you create a challenge for yourself? Can you say, I have an hour before my flight. I'm going to spend 20 of the minutes, and I'm going to set a timer, and I'm going to write for 20 minutes on whatever tool works for you in transit.
Yeah, absolutely. I've done this in the back of a taxi before. There was a short story I had to write that I'd been putting off, and eventually I got in a taxi, and I was like, well, I've got 15 minutes till I get to my destination. I guess I'm starting that story. And I just made myself start it. And it was a really good story. Again, it's one of those things where challenging yourself and setting, having a restricted time or restricted capabilities or restricted technology, sometimes that can actually enhance creativity.
Right. Well, and if I set myself down and I'm like, okay, I'm going to challenge myself to 20 minutes and I'm going to work on this story, and I'm sitting there for 2 minutes and nothing is coming. Well, then I start kvetching. I am trying to write this story and I can't think of anything. And I just keep writing. And as I write, I'm like, yeah, I'm so annoyed because the world building isn't working because of this. And then suddenly I have started solving the problem.
Yeah.
By brain dumping why the story feels stuck. And that is a valid, 100% valid writing thing you can do, is just brain dump. Why is it broken? Why is it not working?
Absolutely.
I'm angry about it. I'm frustrated about it. I'm like, blah.
Yeah, absolutely. With regards to your big meal, Kitoi, some of the chat has already been piling on with great suggestions, like, can you delegate things? Can you simplify it a little bit? One of the things that I do when I have to cook a big meal is I make a battle plan. And usually I pre-make absolutely everything I can possibly do in advance. And I will also plan dishes that specifically I can serve in advance. So instead of serving something like, some fancy starter that needs to be deep fried at the last minute, I'll serve a soup. And I'll make it more fancy with some croutons that I can make 2 days in advance. And I'll make it more fancy with some herbed butter that I can make in 5 minutes, 2 days in advance, and keep in the fridge and whip out at the last minute. These are all things that I can do. I will make something a month in advance that can freeze, and then I will unfreeze it the day before, and then I will just make sure it's hot. These are all things that you could do. Obviously, if it's a Thanksgiving meal, I don't know if it's a Christmas meal, I'm not sure how much time you have, but anything you can front load. Anything you can do in advance, do in advance. For me, it's viable to get my groceries delivered. So that's the thing I do to save me time. And again, I will plan super in advance, so I know exactly which dishes I'm making. And then a week before, I'll make sure the groceries come in the house. And then I'll start slowly, day by day, I'll start slowly cooking the things that need to be cooked on the days they can be cooked as far in advance as I can. And that gives me more breathing room, but it also stops me being so anxious because I know half the meal is done already the day before.
Yeah.
You know, all I have to do is, you know, cook a goose and make some roast potatoes. Everything else is sorted. So I would heavily recommend this as a strategy when you're dealing with a big meal, when you're dealing with a lot of other stress. It's just in general, it's a very solid plan to get ahead. Bonnie Juju says, do I use World Anvil timelines to plan the meal? No, but I do use an honest to God spreadsheet.
Yeah.
I'm not even kidding.
Yeah.
And I do use World Anvil to store all of my recipes. I have a world that's called Recipe World, and I have all of my recipes stored with tags. I can find them easily. They're searchable. I have all of that stuff on World Anvil as well. And every time I try a new recipe and it works, I write it in World Anvil. And it also means that when I'm planning, I can look through my archive of recipes and go, that was a hit last time. I know I can make that in advance. And then I can just make it. It's just there. And I have my own top hits right there. So again, anything you can do in advance, anything you can plan, anything you can minimize, these are the tricks. It's not magic, it's planning. You know, anything that you can make smaller or less, or invite somebody else to bring instead. These are all things that you can do.
Yep.
You don't have to be the hero that does everything. I'm sure that everything that you do is wonderful, but you can also give yourself grace and space, and you deserve that.
100%.
So that's what I would say about that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, I guess that leaves a big old question. What's next for Sandra?
Okay. Well, I am actually the book that you've been dropping the pre-order link for in the chat, Structuring Life to Support Creativity. I'm expecting my shipment of books on December 3rd. So yes, I will be shipping out all the pre-ordered books. Will be hopefully shipping out if it arrives on schedule, because you know there are trucks and shipping involved and holidays and all that. But I'm hoping to start shipping, get the pre-ordered books shipped out in the week after that, and so that's my big early December push, is getting all of those into the mail. And then shifting from pre-order version to you can just now buy this in my store. But right now, pre-order is the way to get it. The other thing that I am working on is my Patreon. I have been building community over there that I really love, offering, various, community tier where you can just join some of my work sessions, or all the way up to a structural coaching tier where I will meet with you once a week and help you figure out what this week needs to look like. And figure out, and then larger scale life planning stuff. So I'm really enjoying getting to have these kinds of conversations with small groups and individuals, and because I love the figuring out. Yeah.
Amazing. Phenomenal. And guys, I will say I have Sandra's book already on my Kindle. And I have already been dipping in a little bit. Obviously, I'm waiting for the holidays, for the miraculous time that never comes, that miraculous downtime we were talking about, to dig in. And it is just absolutely packed with thoughtful advice, thoughtful strategies, things to try. It really is a wonderful book. So I do recommend it. It's available in both physical copy coming soon and already in ebook.
Yes, if you pre-order it, use the pre-order site, you get the digital copy. As soon as I click yes, you're good, you can download it. So there's
instant gratification monkey improved.
Yes, absolutely.
Wonderful. Well, Sandra, thank you so very much for joining us again today. It's always such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. It's been a wonderful. I always lovely to talk with you, Janet.
Well, folks, I hope that however you manage it, you manage to stay creative through all the life disruptions the holidays bring. And I do hope that this discussion has armed you with new thoughts and tools. Thank you, everyone who joined us live. And thank you, folks who are listening from the future over on the podcast and over on the VOD. And I wish you all the best of luck and the very happiest of holidays. And maybe creative too. Folks, we have, of course, Novelember ending next week We have World Ember Prep ending next week, because next week World Ember itself is launching 10,000 words of original world building. We challenge you, and we know you've got this. There's going to be sponsored prizes. There are sponsored templates. There's a big old raffle that you can win prizes for as well. There's everything to play for. And if you just want to participate without worrying about competition, you can also do that too. We are going on a raid. Our raid shout is Light Up the Forge, so shout it out when we get to Carson Druid to let him know that we sent you. And yeah, until next time, have a beautiful, beautiful weekend. Big love to you all. Now grab your hammer and go world build. Bye, guys.